countdown begin. Raze back live again. Pop culture, entertainment, of course, the hot topics. Traveling somewhere in the tropics. Usually preserved for smoke show panels, $1 million plays. We expanding the channel, they say opinions like assholes. Watch your mouth at all times and don't mess up the cash flow. We live.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
Interesting. David Gelman, thank you very much for your analysis today.
What up, what up, what up, what up? Raze back live again on this Wednesday afternoon live stream. Hit that like button as you guys come in. The Diddy trial is in progress as we speak. You just seen on Fox News a former prosecutor and attorney just say that there is a strong possibility that Diddy can walk, meaning he can get off and beat these charges. I know people have been saying the feds have a crazy high 90% success rate in these type of trials, RICO, conspiracy, racketeering. But as you just heard, the expert, you see, I like to, listen to the experts and to the lawyers also, and not just people that do YouTube, such as myself and others that give our opinion on these things. Now, that right there was a professional. I'm going to play the longer version of that, courtesy of Fox News. And I wanted to hear somebody who works in the legal field, and he is seeing all the evidence that is being put forward inside this case. He is witnessing every witness testimony that go on that stand and testify against Diddy. And there have been plenty of people who have testified against Diddy already. Hit that like button, guys. You guys come in. Salute to you, Ajima's World says happy birthday. Shout out to you, Ajima's World. Thank you for that. Happy birthday wishes. I highly appreciate you. Free Diddy Pauls says Adric Hot Boy. Free Diddy. Now, some people were saying free Diddy. Now, this guy, like I said, that professional guy said strong possibility Diddy can walk. And I guess I'm going to play the full version of that, Adric Hot Boy. So you might be getting your wish, Adric Hot Boy. Now, I know there has been some people dressed up in Diddy clothes. Some people saying that they have been paid by Diddy team to go out in front of the courtroom and say free Diddy and, wear Diddy, free Diddy clothing out there. So Adric Hot Boy, according to that guy, that former prosecutor, he's saying, and I'm going to play the full context of his video, basically, they are not proving RICO and racketeering. Shout out to Ajima's World. Like I said, shout out to thank you for all your birthday wishes. I highly appreciate everybody. Salute for keeping us updated, says Easy E. Eric Terry, hey, thank you for popping up in here, man. I have a, this is becoming, like I said, there has been plenty of testimony. I know people in this chat have been saying that, all of this testimony must mean Diddy is guilty. Yes, I mean, we can come to our own conclusions as a juror if we want to believe every single bit of testimony that every person that went on that stand says. But what this prosecutor, which I want to play, he is saying that there's no real hardcore evidence of any of this stuff going down as for the racketeering and RICO. Now Kid Cudi's, that car has been a big topic of conversation inside the courtroom today and yesterday. And they had a fire department investigator, on the stand today, LAPD on the stand today. And I'm going to show you guys what they've been saying over the past couple of hours. And there was a motion for mistrial. The Diddy's team is trying to get a mistrial because of said fire that was set to Kid Cudi's car. And the defense is saying, look, there's no evidence that anybody from Diddy's team set that car on fire. Now the prosecutors are trying to say, yes, there is. because they're trying to get him more racketeering, saying Bad Boy Records is a criminal enterprise and people that work for Diddy was hired basically to burn Kid Cudi's car, meaning this criminal enterprise was running amok, rampant for years, doing criminal stuff, violent stuff, intimidation, all types of crimes underneath the Bad Boy Records. And that's what they're trying to prove. But a lot of this stuff is, people just giving their testimony. Free Diddy ASAP, says A1 to P. Guilty being a freak. So A1 to P says he's only guilty of being a freak. All right, so let me play for you, and I'm gonna get to what's been going on in the courtroom after this. Let me play for you the full version of that, courtesy of Fox News. Hit that like button, guys. He is saying that Diddy could walk, and here's some more context to that.
John Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial will resume tomorrow as a third personal assistant is set to take the stand. Over the first couple of weeks, jury members heard explosive testimony detailing the alleged physical and emotional abuse Combs caused. Let's bring in David Gelman, former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. David, welcome.
Hey, Mike, good to be here.
So in week 2 of testimony, jurors heard from a dozen witnesses as prosecutors try to prove sex trafficking and racketeering. What are your expectations when court resumes tomorrow?
It's going to be really interesting tomorrow when Diddy's third or fourth assistant takes a stand, and she's going to actually corroborate Kid Cudi's testimony from last week, where he said that Diddy and another associate of his bombed his Porsche years ago at his house. Now, you have to have corroboration about that because nobody can put Diddy there. And in fact, nobody even can say Diddy's the actual one who did it. But if they can say that Diddy or an associate of his did it, then you may have a racketeering charge there. Because right now, as it stands, Mike, nothing, and I mean nothing, is sticking to Diddy.
Diddy's lawyers are trying to make the case that his escapades do not amount to federal crimes. How difficult is that argument?
I think they're doing a fantastic job, honestly. Look, everybody has said, and Diddy's lawyers even said it in their opening statement, Diddy is not a good guy. There's a lot of domestic violence that occurred between him and Cassie in their relationship. However, what we've heard so far from the testimony of Cassie and the other individuals does not amount to the federal charges that he's being charged with right now. I'm not going to say anything that we heard is very good because it's all horrific. However, the state or the government in this particular instance needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he conspired to racketeer, to sex traffic, and to promote prostitution. So far, they're falling way behind in this. And I know there's a lot more to go in this trial because they're saying it's going to be about 8 weeks. But the government really better step on the gas because they don't have a lot more time to go.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
Interesting. David Gelman, thank you very much for your analysis today.
You heard it, right? Courtesy of Fox News, David Gelman, former prosecutor, said strong possibility Diddy can be spending 4th of July at his home doing a cookout, a barbecue. Guys, what do you guys got to say about that? Hit the like button as you guys come in. That was former prosecutor, saying, look, the defense is not doing it. They're putting out the witnesses, but they're falling short of proving RICO, racketeering. They are having these witnesses up here, but they're not really bringing the hardcore 100% evidence that places Diddy, especially as far as the Kid Cudi's car getting burned down. There's no real 100% smoking gun hardcore evidence that he actually burned down the car, using the Molotov cocktail. And they've testified today, the fire department, that it was an Old English bottle that was used to burn Kid Cudi's car. And I have the image that they showed inside the courtroom. You see, prosecutors need this right here. You see this is Kid Cudi's car right here. This is courtesy of CNN. Arson investigator said Molotov cocktail in Kid Cudi's car Kid Cudi's Porsche caused smoldering fire, and this is the photo that was shown in the courtroom today of Kid Cudi's car. Okay, and the prosecutors have been trying to say that Diddy was responsible. They brung in Kid Cudi, and Kid Cudi says he thinks Diddy was responsible. Diddy has denied that he was responsible for it. So it's basically Kid Cudi's word versus Diddy's word. Who will the jurors believe? But as you just seen, that former prosecutor was saying, look, they are not really 100% proving that Diddy and his associates did this to that car, which would prove, if they had 100% evidence that they did, he said that would prove racketeering, that would prove that Diddy hired people underneath the Bad Boy Records, to go ahead and do this criminal act. You know what I mean? But there's no hardcore proof. Now, let me see. As far as this car is concerned, it says, this is courtesy of CNN, partial female DNA profile found on the bottle in Kid Cudi's Porsche, burning, investigator says. And like I said, the bottle was an Old English, alcohol bottle, that beer. Some of you guys probably drunk that stuff. OD, the bottle, the cloth, and lighter were tested for DNA, but only the bottle returned results. Arson investigator Lance Jimenez said, he was this the guy that's testifying in the trial. He confirmed that a partial DNA profile consistent with a female contributor came from the bottle, but said he didn't know exactly what that meant. Early, Jimenez testified that he does not have any expertise in DNA testing or analysis. Now, Diddy's team was moving to get a mistrial because of this information. Especially it was something about the fingerprints, which I'm going to show you guys. But Kid Cudi's car was targeted. Arson investigator says. Los Angeles investigator Lance Jimenez testified that he believes someone targeted Kid Cudi's Porsche. He noted that it was not easily visible from the street and parked in an affluent neighborhood with low crime activity. Another car parked in the driveway at the time was not harmed, he testified. So, and this is what right here, this is what prosecutors are trying desperately to land Diddy on, that he conspired and had his goons burn this Porsche. Now, so now the Diddy's law team was like, look, man, hey, jurors, that was female DNA. Female DNA. It was not any goons from Diddy's team. And they were kind of hitting when they were doing a cross-examination that maybe it was Cassie. Maybe it was Cassie or another female, set fire to that car. You know what I'm saying? And not somebody from Diddy's team, so and it just leaves it out there. Diddy's team is putting it out there in front of the jurors to have some doubt whether or not Diddy actually did it. Now, you guys got common sense. Y'all probably believe, oh, hell yeah, Diddy burnt that man car. He had somebody burn that man car. But like I said, that prosecutor said, look, Diddy might walk. But LAPD, Los Angeles Fire Department testimony could aid prosecution in proving racketeering charge, legal expert says. A Los Angeles police officer and Los Angeles Fire Department arson investigator took to the stand to provide testimony that could help the prosecution prove racketeering conspiracy charge against Sean Diddy Combs with regards to Kid Cudi's arson and break-in allegations, trial attorney Kelly Hyman says. So now, the big is Kid Cudi and the break-in at his house. It was something about a fingerprint board that was destroyed. Also, Diddy's team was complaining about, and I'm going to get into that. That's what they were saying needs to be, looked into, and therefore this should be a mistrial. The judge denied the mistrial. He denied it today, but the Diddy's team was trying to get a mistrial pertaining to something about the fingerprints left at the house of Kid Cudi during that alleged break-in. Yesterday, former assistant to Combs, Capricorn Clark, provided details during her testimony about Cassie Ventura's relationship with Kid Cudi, whose name is Scott Mescudi, and how that did not sit well with Combs. Clark testified that she was kidnapped and taken to Mescudi's home by Combs. which Hyman said could also be key in proving the racketeering conspiracy. However, these allegations were not brought to police or made in court. However, Hyman said the prosecution witness from LAPD and LAFD can still help prove the charge. You see, and this is why that Fox News guy said, look, this is just people's statements. There is no hardcore evidence that happened as far as her getting kidnapped. Now, I always sit here saying that the jurors might go ahead and believe Capricorn Clark that happened. My guy Big Super, he was sitting inside the courtroom yesterday. Big Super said that, hey, he doesn't believe her. He doesn't believe Capricorn Clark. Right now, if you're a juror, you know, even if you do believe her, maybe you the type of juror that don't want to send Diddy to jail for 15 years to life on that, because there is no hardcore evidence, right? And this is kind of like later on, and it seems like everybody kind of made up, or like they accord you now. You know, maybe you don't want to actually put Diddy in jail for that, because, you know, send him to prison for that, because Capricorn Clark kept going back to Diddy for employment. You know, even though she said that Diddy was the really kind of like had her blackmailed or whatever, not blackmailed, blackballed from the industry. So she kept going back to him to beg for employment, in which, you know, she had got. So maybe as a juror, you probably like, you know what? Yeah, Diddy is an awful guy, but I don't really want to put him in jail for those events, because he met with Kid Cudi afterwards. He met with, you know, his victims afterwards, his alleged victims, and hired them, put them on payroll and stuff like that. You know, does this warrant 15 years to life in prison as a juror? You get what I'm saying? It says, so it's important to remember that when Kid Cudi took the witness stand, he testified that he believed that Diddy caused the harm to his car, the arson, and that car was worth about $140,000, God, that Porsche. So when the prosecution now has the people from the LA Police Department and also the fire department, they can discuss exactly what happened to the car to help substantiate the prosecution's position. Like I said, this is the photo of the car, but the thing is, they still don't have the smoking gun that Diddy or somebody from Diddy's association did that to the car. Even though we can assume that Diddy had somebody do that to the car. You get what I'm saying? You know, we're not stupid, but, you know, there's no real 100% smoking gun evidence. You know, let me see what y'all guys are talking in the chat. James Smith says nope. James Smith. So you say nope? You agree? You agree with you saying nope? He's not guilty, or nope? You don't agree with? Oh, I guess you don't agree with the guy that said that Diddy could walk.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
Interesting. David Gelman, thank you very much for your analysis today.
Can be home having a barbecue, guys. Having a barbecue. Can you imagine that if that was to happen? Can you imagine if that was to happen? Let's just say he plead out and just get no time. You know, because I don't think he's going to be found not guilty or innocent on it. I think maybe they'll do some type of plea deal. You know, like I said, he turned down a plea deal for 15 years before the trial started. Maybe they'll give him a new plea deal that doesn't involve jail time, a la Young Thug. You know what I'm saying? And he had to do a years of probation. With that would be huge news. That would be huge news, guys. Diddy guilty as sin, says Extreme Traveler. Well, shout out to you, Extreme Traveler. Hey, yeah, I mean, people want to have that opinion, but can they 100% prove it? You know, enough for the jury to say guilty, 15 years to life. You know what I'm saying? For them to all 12 jurors to come to an agreement that he deserves 15 years. See, I think a lot of the jury, believe that he's guilty of doing such things and could be guilty. But do they want to send him to prison for 15 to 20 years? I mean, 15 years to life? for it. Like I said, a lot of these people went back to him and tried to get employment from him. It seemed like they've, been cordial over the years. Would the jury pull the trigger and give Diddy life? Free Dittler says, AMG Demon. There's going to be a 4th of July all-white party. Now, if he does get that, he better chill out with the parties. You know what I'm saying? If he does get released on some type of probation, James Smith, Raze today, the investigator said that he said a bad boy SUV leaving the scene, or that he saw a bad boy SUV leaving the scene on his way up to Cuddy's house to check on the home invasion call. That he sent, all right, that he said, yeah. I seen some of the testimony inside that courtroom today. And so the investigator said that he seen a bad boy SUV leaving the scene on his way up to Cuddy's house to check on the home invasion call. So that's an official person. I guess the investigator said he's seen a SUV from Kurt that's used by Bad Boy Records. Okay, so that's evidence right there from a professional on the stand saying he's seen the car leaving. And they were saying that case is still open. The fire to Kid Cudi's car was still open, but it just wasn't solved. The investigator was saying, look, we tried to contact Capricorn Clark. She would not talk to us. They tried to contact Cassie. She would not talk to us. So that investigation still remained open all these years, but they weren't getting cooperation. You get what I'm saying? So did he say anything about female DNA at the scene? Yeah, they've been talking about the female DNA at the scene. They've been talking about the female DNA at the scene. It's just that they don't know whose DNA it was. You know what I'm saying? They don't know whose DNA was at the scene of this burnt car, the Molotov cocktail, the old English bottle. Jojo, he's guilty of crimes against feminism. For that, they're trying to crucify him or drown him in baby oil. That's a good one, Jojo. That's a good one. You said it's Cassie's DNA? Cassie's DNA? Capricorn Corn says she got the phone call from the fire investigators, but she said she was done with that. She didn't want to even be bothered with these people no more. She said she wanted to put all that stuff behind her, and that's why she was not talking to the fire investigators about that whole case of the arson. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Yeah, they said they found two black gloves inside the car. They're trying to figure out who those gloves belong to. Also, trying to say maybe it's just Kid Cudi's gloves. Pretty much insinuating Diddy's team is pretty much insinuating maybe Kid Cudi set fire to his own car. Diddy's team is diabolical, man. But they trying to do everything they can. And like I said, you heard the former prosecutor said he thinks Diddy's team is doing a good job. With all of these witnesses, testimonies coming out against Diddy, they're doing everything they can to try to discredit the testimony from all these witnesses. I was saying the same thing. I was like, well, with all of these witnesses coming out against Diddy, the Diddy team, I think they're handling it okay for me as I watch. I mean, it's but so much they can do, but with everybody coming out testifying against Diddy, Diddy hired about 10 lawyers. He has around 10 lawyers that's going back and forth inside that courtroom and, questioning some of these alleged victims and witnesses. Females make good goons. Whose DNA do y'all think that was? On that bottle? Y'all think it was Cassie's or Capricorn Clark's? Just the facts. The presence of female DNA does not preclude the possibility that female associates acting on behalf of Diddy may have been involved. It does not in itself eliminate potential culpability. You're right about that. Now, I see what Diddy's lawyers are trying to do. They're trying to say that, hey, the alleged criminals in this Diddy organization were all males. They are males. Males would do something like that, like burn a Diddy. The males in Diddy's organization would do such a thing. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're trying to put in the juror's head. How come we found female DNA over there? Maybe if it was female DNA, Maybe it was just a Kid Cudi's ex of Kid Cudi did that. That was disgruntled, that was mad. Maybe Cassie herself did that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she was mad. You know what I mean? So they're trying to pretty much put inside the juror's head, and that's what's important. That, well, it wasn't no male DNA, so it wasn't Diddy's DNA. He didn't do it. It wasn't one of the Diddy goons, one of the Diddy security guards who were all male that did that. Now there is an outside chance that, hey, maybe Capricorn Clark. You know what I mean? But I'm like, why would she do that? But who knows? I mean, but the jurors is listening to all of this, and Diddy's team is just trying to put reasonable doubt inside the head of those jurors. You know what I'm saying? Do we want to put Diddy in jail for something that happened such a long time ago and give him life, maybe potentially? And like I said, Kid Cudi has pretty much, he shook hands with Diddy after that incident, like years later. He did mention that, hey, what are we going to do about my car that was burned, $140,000 per Porsche, but Diddy claimed that, he didn't know anything about that. You know what I'm saying? So let me see. Officer Ignacio in Capricorn statements placed Diddy at Kid Cudi's residence, proving circumstantial evidence that supports Cassie's claim that Diddy threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car. Yes, now everything is circumstantial evidence. Now some jurors might convict on that, but when you get all 12 jurors to convict on it, circumstantial evidence, testimony, which we've seen people go to jail for that. Will you get all 12? And I guess that's what that former prosecutor was saying. There's no hardcore smoking gun with the DNA evidence about this car. And the Diddy's team is trying to make it all about DNA evidence now. They're trying to make it all about DNA. Yeah, people testified and said circumstantial evidence. Yeah, but Diddy's a bad guy. But he would likely beat up Cassie and this and that. Yeah, but this is not about that. This trial is not about that, jurors. Where's the DNA? Where's the DNA about this arson? Because like I said, guys, arson falls underneath the RICO. You know what I'm saying? Arson falls directly underneath the RICO. You know what I mean? And right at the top right there, crimes that are covered by the RICO Act. And arson is right there. Arson is right up there. If they could prove 100% that Diddy did that, that's part of the RICO. You know what I mean? And that's what the prosecutors are trying to prove right now. So let's go on to some other. I'm gonna get to it's up to the jury. It could go either way, says Hot Wayne. Delta One says, what about the fingerprints found at the scene of the crime was mysteriously destroyed by the police? And yes, and that's what they were trying to get the mistrial for, Delta One. But the judge denied it. They were trying to get the mistrial, Diddy scene, about the fingerprints found at the scene at Kid Cudi's house, but mysteriously was destroyed. Diddy's team were trying to say, hey, what's going on? This is like a conspiracy against our client Diddy. We want this. We want a mistrial. We want a mistrial. Store clerk, drop or not. Old English store. Yeah, OD. Drop or not said, yeah. Judge says he'll instruct jury to disregard fingerprint card testimony. And this is what you would just talk about, Delta One. This is courtesy of CNN. Before the break, Austin investigator Lance Jimenez testified that Kid Cudi had his home swept for fingerprints after the trespassing incident in December 2011. Hey, hit the like button, guys. Hit the like button. We are covering the Diddy trial. 2 prints were recovered from the glass front door. Jimenez said he collected a card with those prints, okay, to compare to anything retrieved from the arson incident. So he collected the prints from the break-in at Kid Cudi's house, which we all believe happened. I believe it happened. You guys believe it happened. He said he collected those prints to compare with the arson prints, which was smart for him to do, of the car, Kid Cudi's car. Jimenez also testified that the print card that he kept with evidence from the arson case was destroyed by a Los Angeles Police Department officer in August 2012. Guys, did y'all just hear that? That is huge testimony right there, that the prints he found was destroyed by Los Angeles Police Department officer in August 2012, which Diddy's team was like, you know what? These people are playing games. It's a conspiracy. Judge, this should be a mistrial. What is going on? Why would they destroy the fingerprints? Why would they destroy the fingerprints? Jimenez testified that he typically has to sign off on the destruction of any evidence he submitted as a lead investigator. The defense objected to the line of questioning during the break. The judge said he would tell the jury to disregard the testimony about the fingerprint cards. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo said the prosecution's implications within the questioning were outrageous. Diddy's team said they were suggesting to this jury that someone in the courtroom has something to do with the improper or suspicious destruction of these fingerprints. Okay. So I guess the prosecution in there was saying, look, somebody from Diddy's team, I guess, colluded with LAPD that had the fingerprints destroyed, so they couldn't be compared to the prints out there with the fire of Kid Cudi's car. I don't know. But they were destroyed. So Diddy's team said, look, we are filing a motion for a mistrial, in which the judge denied. That was earlier today. Let me see. Jimenez, all right, let me see. All right, Jimenez said there were severe damage to the Porsche. It wasn't nearly the kind catastrophic damage he normally sees from fully operational Molotov cocktails. He testified there was a bottle on the front seat, and there were like a cloth, a handkerchief on the center console that was burned. Jimenez said, adding that he saw a disposable lighter outside of the car, a couple of feet from the driver's side. Pictures of the Porsche Jimenez described on the stand were shown to the jury, which we taking a look at. Porsche, all right. The bottle, cloth, and lighter were tested for DNA, but only the bottle returned results, Jimenez said, confirming that partial DNA profile consistent with a female contributor came from the bottle, but said he didn't know exactly what that meant. Earlier, Jimenez testified that he does not have any expertise in DNA testing or analysis. And the LAPD had a person testify talking about responding to Sean Diddy Combs' alleged break-in inside that house. The LAPD investigator said his partner responded to a radio call of a possible burglary at the home and testified that he noticed a black Escalade parked outside Kid Cudi's home. The SUV took off up the hill as the marked police vehicle with lights and sirens on pulled up behind it. Ignacio, who is the LAPD officer, testified that he didn't pursue the Escalade because there wasn't a crime at that point. Now, they were saying that SUV Escalade was courtesy of Bad Boy Records. That was a Bad Boy Records Escalade, but the LAPD police officer said there wasn't a crime at that point. When Ignacio went inside, the door was unlocked. No one was home, but a number of high-value items like watches and purses were in plain sight, some wrapped and some unwrapped. All right. I guess those were the gifts that Kid Cudi said that were opened. Kid Cudi testified last week that after the break-in, he noticed his home security cameras had been moved inside the house. Some gifts had been opened, and his dog was locked in the bathroom. LAPD officer Ignacio testified Kid Cudi was flustered and real flustered, but didn't report a gun being involved or that any property was stolen from the home. He said he didn't remember if anyone told him a gun was involved in the incident at Kid Cudi's home, but he confirmed that he didn't reference a gun in the report. Okay, so this is all right. Now the fire department, the Austin Jimenez testified to respond to Kid Cudi's home in January 2012 to investigate the fire set to rapper's Porsche. All right, said it was parked. Yeah, so basically that's where we at with this. You know what I'm saying? That is where we are at with this. Shout out to Wiz Milano in the building. That is the Porsche right there. the prosecutors are trying to prove that's really that Diddy did that to the Porsche. Defense is trying to prove that anybody, another female could have did that to the Porsche, and it wasn't part of Diddy's team did that to the Porsche. Proving arson in court involves a combination of physical evidence, expert testimony, witness statements, and circumstantial evidence. DNA is not required. Arson has been proven today, if you ask me. So just the fact says, if just the fact was on that jury, if he was the juror number 13, he would say guilty of the arson. How about what about this? Would you feel comfortable about putting Diddy away for 15 years for this arson, even though it happened so long ago? And he and Kid Cudi has since, been cordial. They've been talking. They've met years ago. Years after this. And it seemed like they moved past this arson thing. Now, I know Kid Cudi was subpoenaed to come testify. A lot of these people that are testifying against Diddy do not want to be there. They have been subpoenaed by the feds. So would you go ahead and put Diddy in jail for this arson, which falls underneath the RICO for 15 years because he did this arson, back in 2011? Would you go ahead and do it? Would you combine the fact that he beat up Cassie a bunch of times? Would you say, you know what, this guy's a bad dude? Let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and believe that he burnt this man's car, and I'm going to give him 15 years to life in prison for it. So that's what the jury, all 12 jurors, is going to have to decide, even though there's no DNA evidence that says that Diddy actually did it. It's all circumstantial evidence, which is a juror's right to go ahead and convict on circumstantial evidence. You know what I'm saying? He said Mo. T. Williams says free Diddy. T. Williams says free Diddy. Well, here's the thing. They're pretty much saying, Stephen Olay, that the workers, the people that you see testifying, getting subpoenaed, and some of them have been given immunity, they were part of the criminal enterprise. They are unindicted co-conspirators, but they are obviously flipping and testifying on behalf of the prosecution against Diddy. So that's the way the feds play. That's the way the government plays. It's their rule. They can, obviously nobody else is standing trial. Let's say like with the federal case of Young Thug, or the mob, back in the John Gotti days. But they're saying that Bad Boy Records was a criminal organization, and any other witnesses that work for Diddy, technically they could say, y'all guys, or you people that work for Diddy, the assistants and people that went to buy him drugs and carry his guns to go pull up on Suge Knight, you guys, I don't know what they told these witnesses, what threats they told them, the feds, but they probably told them, look, you guys are looking at some time too. You got to come testify. You know what I'm saying? Come testify, and then you get your immunity. So the people in the organization, the people that work for Diddy, Stephen Olay, I assume, and they say don't assume, I assume that they were unindicted co-conspirators, and that's the RICO, but they just haven't been charged. They are unindicted, Stephen Olay. Or hearsay, no evidence, like we kept saying, T. Williams, and that's what that federal prosecutor said. Now there can be. See, I'm gonna keep putting that out there. You can be convicted, as we've seen in the American justice system. You can be convicted without DNA evidence, T. Williams. You can 100%, without a doubt. You can go do time, serious time, by just testimony. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. By just testimony, all 12 jurors could say guilty. They get to say, well, just, people testifying, and they believe every witness or most of the witnesses that testified, and they can find him guilty. So there's a 100% possibility he can be found guilty. But if you could have one juror to say, no, everybody is different. It could be that one juror to say, well, they could be like you, T. Williams, to say, well, it's all hearsay. There's no DNA evidence. There's no photos putting him at the crime. There's no video putting him at the crime to prove racketeering and this and that. So I'm going to find him not guilty. The other 11 jurors could say guilty. They believe the circumstantial circumstantial evidence. But one of the jurors gonna be like, nah, I don't feel comfortable putting them away without DNA, and so that can happen. That can happen. All you need is one juror to say, not guilty, Now, if it would be easy if they did have the DNA evidence about this arson or video about this arson and this and that, then a juror can't use that as an excuse. You know what I'm saying? They're like, well, how can you use that as an excuse once they actually prove Diddy's fingerprints or Diddy's DNA, burnt that man's car like that. You know what I'm saying? If Diddy had treated these people good, they would never have testified. Well, remember, they're getting subpoenaed, so they got no choice but to testify. A lot of them don't even want to testify, but they're being subpoenaed. But that's part of the game. That's part of life, though, T. Williams. If you treat people good in life, they more than likely won't be ratting you out or coming at you. They might rat you out still because, once the feds say, hey, we're going to give you 10 years, they still might rat you out, turn state's witness, even though you treated them good. But I get what you're saying for the most part. But he should have treated people good. Like this guy said, look, this guy was saying, look, Diddy is not a good person. So some of those jurors might put him away because we know Diddy is not a good person, man. He's not a good. I don't think Diddy is a good person, to be honest with you. Personally, that's my personal opinion. Raze, coming from Raze. I don't think he's a good guy. I think he is a woman abuser. I think he's a weirdo. He's a weirdo. I wouldn't hang out with Diddy, personally. You know what I'm saying? But let's listen to what this guy has to say again. This former federal prosecutor.
Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial will resume tomorrow as a third personal assistant is set to take the stand. Over the first couple of weeks, jury members heard explosive testimony detailing the alleged physical and emotional abuse Combs caused. Let's bring in David Gelman, former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. David, welcome.
Hey, Mike. Good to be here.
So in week 2 of testimony, jurors heard from a dozen witnesses as prosecutors try to prove sex trafficking and racketeering. What are your expectations when court resumes tomorrow?
It's going to be really interesting tomorrow when Diddy's third or fourth assistant takes a stand, and she's going to actually corroborate Kid Cudi's testimony from last week, where he said that Diddy and another associate of his bombed his Porsche years ago at his house. Now, you have to have corroboration about that because nobody can put Diddy there. And in fact, nobody even can say Diddy's the actual one who did it. But if they can say that Diddy or an associate of his did it, then you may have a racketeering charge there. Because right now, as it stands, Mike, nothing, and I mean nothing, is sticking to Diddy.
Diddy's lawyers are trying to make the case that his escapades do not amount to federal crimes. How difficult is that argument?
I think they're doing a fantastic job, honestly. Look, everybody has said, and Diddy's lawyers even said it in their opening statement, Diddy is not a good guy. There's a lot of domestic violence that occurred between him and Cassie in their relationship. However, what we've heard so far from the testimony of Cassie and the other individuals does not amount to the federal charges that he's being charged with right now. I'm not going to say anything that we heard is very good because it's all horrific. However, the state or the government in this particular instance needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he conspired to racketeer, to sex traffic, and to promote prostitution. So far, they're falling way behind in this. And I know there's a lot more to go in this trial because they're saying it's going to be about 8 weeks. But the government really better step on the gas because they don't have a lot more time to go.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
Interesting. David Gelman, thank you very much for your analysis today.
Interesting indeed. Diddy could walk. Strong possibility. Diddy could walk from that expert who is a former prosecutor and defensive attorney. So, of course, he's talking about the Diddy case in a from a defense team point of view, obviously, because he did both. He was a prosecutor and a defense attorney. But he makes a good point that it all comes down to what the jurors believe. You know what I'm saying? And how the jurors are thinking. Will they bury Diddy for being a bad guy? Nobody believes Diddy is a good guy. You know what I'm saying? He's a female abuser. And nobody really likes female abusers, I don't believe. But um, does that rise to racketeering? These witnesses that's coming up, racketeering, trafficking. A lot of these people were adults that went to go dance and do sexual acts for Diddy, right? Should that be, is that life imprisonment? Now, like I keep saying, I guess they're gonna keep bringing in more witnesses, and witnesses say they were drugged and this and that. Um, hmm, man, so this case is getting very, very interesting. This case is getting very, very interesting. Now, like I said, once again, I don't believe Diddy is a good guy at all. You know, uh, I would not hang out with that man. I think he's weird. He's a weirdo. You know what I mean? Um, he's just not my type of guy to hang out with, at all. So let me see, Robinot. All right. The problem here is too many incidents with no evidence. It seems like prosecutors are just blaming him for everything. Well, they're blaming him for stuff that we kind of figured that he did, T-Wayne. I'm not going to play here and act like I'm dumb. I'm not going to play dumb. I think he did a lot of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can believe a lot of this witness testimony because they really had no reason to lie. But the thing is, they kept going back. You know what I'm saying? As a juror, do I feel comfortable putting this guy in jail for 15 years to life on racketeering, criminal enterprise, when the alleged victims kept returning to get a job or a paycheck to try to put their friends on? So I'm like, as a juror, I'm like, dude. Yeah, I'm like, I understand, but the feds want him to go to jail. But the victims that were going back and forth to that company, do they even want him to go to jail? I'm not even sure that these witnesses, the people that's testifying against him, wants him to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? For 15 years of life. So as a juror, do I feel comfortable putting him in jail? You know what I'm saying? Now the car, see, if I was on a jury and they would just say, "Hey, Raze, you can what you want to do with this guy?" Yeah, I'm like, yeah, he more than likely burned that man car. Can we fine him? Can we force him to pay for the guy car? It's $140,000. Can we fine him? Maybe let him do time serve. He has been locked up, and that'll end that portion of the Porsche. I'm like, yeah, it's a possibility that he did that. You know what? Can we not give him the 15 years in prison for that? And just have him do the time served, but make him pay for that man car. Matter of fact, it was $140,000. Make him pay $240,000. You know what I'm saying? Now I know it don't work like that way, so that's the thing. Will one jury think like me and say, you know what, I just gotta find him not guilty because I'm not putting him in jail as far as the arson. I'm not gonna put him in jail for it, even though I kind of think he did it. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather not put him in jail for 15 years for it though. That's the thing. Like I said, Kid Cudi and them already they talked about it since then, even though Diddy denied that he had anything to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Either way he is done, nobody will do business with him again, whether he is guilty or not. He's done in the court of public opinion, says Jake White. Well, you would think, but when people got money, like I said, these alleged victims, they went back to him because why, Jake White? Because of the money, because of the opportunities. He could bring them employment. You know, Delta One says agreed. Nobody will do business with him on Broadway in Hollywood again. Mike Deasy is in the building. What up, Mike Deasy? No crime or being freaky. Diddy will walk out, baby oil and all. Take that, take that. Like I said, that's another main reason I would never hang out with that man, Mike Deasy. He's not my type of guy to hang out with. I am not getting involved with him in that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Just too weird. It's just too weird. It's too, you know, it's too much drama. Too much drama, Mike Deasy. He brings too much drama. You know, I'm not. I would not hang out with him. Um, but yeah, this is a humiliation ritual. If he gets off, his business is still done. He's finished, says Jay White. Jojo says these are just ninja tree tactics to another level, but not Rico. He said ninja tree tactics to another, but not Rico. Slashing tires, fighting about stolen jewelry. Yeah, now that kidnapping thing where she said she was held for 5 days, that's awful. And that's the thing. I can believe that happened to that lady. But then she stays there, and then later on she goes back and try to get employment again. It's like, yeah, those are awful things. And this guy, he should get some type of punishment for that stuff, right? You would, it's tough because you're like, yeah, this guy is awful. This guy is an awful guy. This guy is an awful guy. Should he get life in jail for that though? After these people been going back and trying to get employment, that's the thing. Yeah, she says this stuff happened to her. Do we believe her 100%? I can believe that happened to her. Locked in there for five days, taking a lie detector test because of stolen jewelry. But after she goes back, see, I would feel better putting Diddy in jail for 15 years to life if she went right to the police and started crying, saying, "Hey, I've been held hostage. They threatened to throw me inside the East River, and this and that." And if she still felt Diddy was a threat to her, that'd be different. You get what I'm saying? But she was hanging around there still, you know what I'm saying? And after she got fired, she went back, sent Diddy a apology letter saying, hey, this and that. Can she work back there? Or Diddy contacted her to work back there, said you don't have to really deal with him altogether. You can work in a different department. And she did, it's like... drop or not, the Fed could take all his assets because of RICO. Yeah, they could. Jay White, look at Bill Cosby. He was later vindicated, but his legacy was ruined. TF, the Fed want to take his money and assets because they're racist. Well, like I said, I'm not gonna get into all that. But like I said, you guys are witnessing right here the said car that was set on fire, and they're still, I guess they're still in the court. I think they caught in. Diddy will be orphan free in a few months doing the remix to Let's Get It with G Depp. Well, hey, it's a possibility, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, according to this guy, you know what I'm saying? According to this guy.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
Interesting. David Gelman, thank you very much for your analysis today.
Yeah, now he's saying Diddy could walk. Well, we're not saying 100% not guilty or anything like that. He is saying that he could plead out for time served already and do some type of probation and this and that. So that's what that guy is talking about right now from the testimony that he's heard. He was a former prosecutor and a defense attorney. Hollywood has no more use for him, and Diddy got mad and didn't want to give up his role, and now they are doing a humiliation ritual. Fake Miko was in the building. Let me see. Oh, okay. All right, TF. Yeah, let me see what's going on. So there's... All right, so I read you that. I read you that. It's just to update. Fingerprints. Yeah, why would the LAPD burn those fingerprints, though? Why would they burn the fingerprints at Kid Cudi's house that was being compared to the arson? You know what I mean? Why would they? Who ordered those fingerprints to be burned? You know what I'm saying? That's why Diddy's team was trying to get a mistrial. You know, now the prosecutors were trying to imply that Diddy got the LAPD to have those fingerprints burned somehow. You know, so it's interesting. It's just all interesting to see what the jurors believe. Let me see. It's going to be very interesting to see what the jurors believe. You know, let's see. What was this? Judge denies defense motion for a mistrial. Judge Aaron denied the defense team's mistrial motion. The judge said he doesn't believe that the jury was prejudiced and will give a curative instruction to the jury and strike the testimony about the fingerprint cards from the record. So he just said, we're going to strike the fingerprint testimony from the record, but he is not granting a mistrial like the defense wanted. He just told the jury to disregard all the testimony about the fingerprints. Okay. The prosecutor, Christy Slavic, said a mistrial is absolutely unwarranted, agreeing with the judge that a curative instruction would suffice, meaning tell the jury to disregard the testimony about the fingerprints. Because the Diddy's defense said, look, there's no reason why those fingerprints should have been destroyed. You know, we want a mistrial. Judge says, nope, we're not going to do that. We just had the jury discard all testimony of the fingerprints that was found at Kid Cudi's house. And so that was that. Let me see what this was. Who was this lady? All right, yeah, this is Diddy's. This was Diddy's lawyer. This is one of Diddy's female lawyers. You know, like I say, he has 10 of them. She moves for mistrial, alleging prosecutors' misconduct and claims of bias against Sean Diddy Combs. You know, regarding those fingerprints that were, you know, destroyed. She was saying the prosecutors was trying to hint at that it was Diddy that had those fingerprints destroyed, and this is just misconduct, and this should be a mistrial, guys. So this is Diddy's lawyer right here, one of his 10 lawyers on the case. So that was that. Let me see what else. Defense attorney Alexandra Shapiro. So that was this lady right here. Alexander Shapiro says the defense moves for a mistrial based on prosecution misconduct. Some prospective jurors said during jury selection that they believe Sean Diddy Combs could buy his way out of things, Shapiro said. This type of conspiracy theory is out there, and the type of implication we believe these questions were designed to create plays right into that. Shapiro said a mistrial is the only proper remedy to cure the outrageous prejudice created by the prosecutor's conduct. So she was saying, hit the like button, guys. She was saying, this lady was saying that, you know, some of the prospective jurors before the trial, like 100% started, the testimony started, was saying like Diddy can buy his way out. So I guess I didn't see the testimony, well, the questioning for the prosecutors, but the prosecutors obviously was hinting at Diddy may have been the one to have those fingerprints destroyed in the custody of LAPD, that he paid, hinting that Diddy paid to have those fingerprints destroyed and this and that. So Diddy's lawyer like, no, mistrial, this is outrageous, and there's no evidence of that, and we move for mistrial. So that's what that was about, guys. Hit that like button, guys. Twist and turns inside this Diddy case, you know. Let me see what else I have here. Motion mistrial. I got a couple of more things. All right. Let me add those and see what those say. It's possible that Diddy had a mole in that police department. Okay, so they did mention something about a mole, right? So yeah, and so Diddy's team fought back. Like, nah, they got to strike this from the record. Matter of fact, this mistrial. This is misconduct. Saying Diddy had a mole inside, hitting that Diddy had a mole inside a police department to have those fingerprints destroyed. It's your uncle, man. Ice Diddy, let me borrow $5, says Willie Williams. Free the ditster, you dig? That was a major reach by the prosecution, says T. Williams. Yeah, this is what we're discussing right now. Let's see what else they was discussing. Let me see. Uh, Arson investigator says he tried to reach out to Ventura, Cassie, and Capricorn Clark. You know, the fire arson investigator, Lance Jimenez, says he made multiple unsuccessful attempts to make contact with Capricorn Clark and Cassie Ventura during his investigation in the months that followed the fight that destroyed Kid Cudi's car. At the time, Clark was an employee of Sean Diddy Combs, and Cassie was dating Kid Cudi. Jimenez said he also tried to reach Cassie through a family member of hers, which was unsuccessful. Of course, a judge instructs jury to disregard testimony about destroyed fingerprint. This is all from CNN, guys. By the way, hit that like button. Judge instructed the jury that the questions regarding the destruction of the fingerprint cards and the answers given are irrelevant to the case, and this defendant and are not to be considered by you. Okay. Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic now continues the direct, examination. All right, so I did the thing about the mistrial denied. Now, there was another person testified, celebrity hairstylist, Deontay Nash, was subpoenaed. They asked him, did he want to be there? He said, nope. Nope. He was subpoenaed to be there. And he was the third witness to take the stand and said he was testifying under subpoena and did not want to be there. Nash testified he started working for Combs and Cassie around 2008, starting as an intern and later becoming a hairstylist. Nash, or a stylist in general. Nash testified that on multiple occasions he heard Combs tell Cassie that he would beat her blank. Ventura would be super emotional after these incidents. He said other threats included not releasing Ventura's Cassie's music or threatening to get her parents fired from their jobs. So this witness who was subpoenaed said he heard Diddy threatening to get Cassie's parents fired from their jobs. The stylist also testified that all photos of Cassie's outfits needed to be sent to Sean Diddy Combs for approval. So that's that. That was another testimony. Stylist says rapper threatened Cassie on multiple occasions. So that right there in the photo right there, the artist you see Diddy with the gray hair. That right there is the stylist that was subpoenaed to testify. He said he did not want to be there, but the feds subpoenaed him, so he has no choice. You know what I'm saying? And right there. And what's this I have also right here? Investigator disputes claim that contact with Clark was linked to female DNA found on the bottle of the OD. So that's the investigator right there, the man with the bald head. Disputes claim that contact with Clark was linked to female DNA. So the investigator was saying he disputed that contacting the Clark lady, Capricorn Clark, was linked to female DNA found on the bottle. Obviously, he was trying to contact them because they were, a part of that scene at the house, Kid Cudi's house. Oh boy, what a mess. What a mess. And let me see if I got anything else for you guys. Hit that like button, guys. Hit that like button, guys. Right there, that is the car right there in Creston. That is the car in Creston. If they can prove that Diddy was the one had that car torched, that falls underneath RICO, according to the feds right there. Crimes that are covered by the RICO. That's what they're trying to prove. Arson at the top right there. A violation of RICO occurs when a person in connection with an enterprise engages in a pattern of racketeering activity. Racketeering includes all these. That list right there on your screen. Hit that like button, guys. Hit that like button. Let me see what else I have. Yeah, that's the list of racketeering guys right there. A lot of circumstantial evidence, and some people feel uncomfortable convicting Diddy on uncircumstantial evidence, according to the people in this chat, on circumstantial evidence. You know what I'm saying? And just people testifying. I don't think I'm getting the idea that a lot of you people in the chat, or some of you people in the chat, in my chat, don't really like to convict people just on circumstantial evidence, right? Which is possible to have done, though. That's the thing. So there's no telling what that jury gonna do. There have been many people convicted on just circumstantial evidence, people's eyewitness testimony of stuff on crimes, and not necessarily DNA evidence or video evidence or photo evidence. You know what I'm saying? That Capricorn Clark lady used to work for Death Row Records. Yes. We went through that yesterday. She testified that Diddy threatened to delete her or kill her if things went bad, because something happened, because she did used to work for Suge Knight. That's what she claimed he said to her during the meeting when she first was hired. You know, I don't. Oh man, the FBI was investigating this. They would have found misconduct. Is the prosecutor a rookie? Says Creston Mark. Cali Life and Pink Chucks is in the building. Diddy ain't walking nowhere but down the prison walkways. They've already proved bribery, interstate prostitution, kidnapping, drug distribution, extortion, forced labor. They only needed 2 of them. Now, circumstantial evidence. These are witness testimonies. You're right. If the jury believe most of these witnesses, yeah, then if all 12 find them guilty, yeah, they'd say, well, the evidence was the circumstantial evidence. You put 2 and 2 together. We believe these alleged victims or people that work for Diddy that were subpoenaed, and those are crimes. And yeah, we're going to follow the RICO racketeering statute and say he's guilty, right? But I'm gonna play this one more time. Cali Life and Pink Chucks. This is the last time I'm gonna play this. Fox News, this prosecutor said that, you know, the only thing I see they are close on is extortion and distribution, and they are a stretch. Now the people that work for Diddy said, look, we got him drugs, we purchased drugs for him to use, right? And I guess they have at those freak offs, whatever, or just daily, you know what I'm saying? Extortion, yes, if you want to believe, yeah. Like I said, the jury might, all 12 of those jurors might say they believe the extortion and distribution and stuff like that. And they might believe that he did this fire too. I mean, so it's a possibility. But I'm gonna play this one more time. This is courtesy of Fox News. And after this, I'm gonna just call it a day on this and come back live later on. But this is Fox News, prosecutor saying that strong possibility Diddy could walk.
On Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial will resume tomorrow as a third personal assistant is set to take the stand. Over the first couple of weeks, jury members heard explosive testimony detailing the alleged physical and emotional abuse Combs caused. Let's bring in David Gelman, former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. David, welcome.
Hey, Mike, good to be here.
So in week 2 of testimony, jurors heard from a dozen witnesses as prosecutors try to prove sex trafficking and racketeering. What are your expectations when court resumes tomorrow?
It's going to be really interesting tomorrow when Diddy's third or fourth assistant takes a stand, and she's going to actually corroborate Kid Cudi's testimony from last week, where he said that Diddy and another associate of his bombed his Porsche years ago at his house. Now, you have to have corroboration about that because nobody can put Diddy there. And in fact, nobody even can say Diddy's the actual one who did it. But if they can say that Diddy or an associate of his did it, then you may have a racketeering charge there. Because right now, as it stands, Mike, nothing, and I mean nothing, is sticking to Diddy.
Diddy's lawyers are trying to make the case that his escapades do not amount to federal crimes. How difficult is that argument?
I think they're doing a fantastic job, honestly. Look, everybody has said, and Diddy's lawyers even said it in their opening statement, Diddy is not a good guy. There's a lot of domestic violence that occurred between him and Cassie in their relationship. However, what we've heard so far from the testimony of Cassie and the other individuals does not amount to the federal charges that he's being charged with right now. I'm not going to say anything that we heard is very good because it's all horrific. However, the state or the government in this particular instance needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he conspired to racketeer, to sex traffic, and to promote prostitution. So far, they're falling way behind in this. And I know there's a lot more to go in this trial because they're saying it's going to be about 8 weeks. But the government really better step on the gas because they don't have a lot more time to go.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
Interesting. David Gelman, thank you very much for your analysis today.
He said Diddy could walk. Hit the like button, guys. Now, I did drop the StreamYard link. I forgot I did that. I did drop it. If anybody want to come up and discuss what that prosecutor said, former prosecutor just said that Diddy could walk. Strong possibility. Anybody want to come up and discuss that? You can real quick before I break out of here. Let's see. Diddy is just a rich drug addict. He's not selling any narcotics. Okay. The only thing I see, they are close. All right, they're extortion and distribution. All right. Yeah. Let me see. Diddy just a rich drug addict? Yeah. Big Super predicted it, says Drew. Yeah, shout out to Big Super for coming on. He was inside the courtroom yesterday. Big Super predicted it that Diddy pretty much a plead out. That's what Big Super said. Big Super was like, from what he see, Diddy is just gonna be forced to plead out. He'll get probation, probably time served, and they'll call it a day. Because Big Super don't think they're gonna get all 12 jurors to convict on the racketeering. You know what I'm saying? Because of the lack of DNA and physical evidence, even though there's plenty of circumstantial evidence, testimony and this and that. So, like I said, some of you guys don't feel comfortable with locking up people for just circumstantial evidence for that long, depending on the person, depending on the circumstances, the timeline, the history, the nature of the case. Some would say, well, Cassie been paid like $30 million since then. You know what I'm saying? Well, less than that because of the, she got to pay her lawyer fees and stuff like that. But her portion of the case of the abuse and stuff is over. She's been compensated. Some people would say, look, the Kid Cudi situation, that could be handled by just, forcing Diddy to pay $200,000 for that car. You know what I'm saying? They done talked it out. He said Diddy pretty much apologized for the incident. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't admit to burning his car. Like I said, this stuff, looking at it as a juror, is like, well, this stuff is in the past. It's like these people have gotten past all that already. You know what I'm saying? Now the feds are stepping in to do this racketeering and put this guy away for life, where all this stuff has kind of been already, let's say it happened. A lot of stuff happened. And it was awful bad, but a lot of this stuff has already been squared away with some of these witnesses and people testifying and alleged victims. It's been squared away already between Diddy and the alleged victims with payoffs and stuff like that. He has paid off. I know he paid $30,000 to Cassie's former best friend for allegedly assaulting her. So that was paid off. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of these things have been squared away already. Do you still want to put him in jail 15 years to life? That's what's going on. That's the question. I think that is the question right now. Do you agree with the feds bringing these racketeering charges on? You know what I mean? Should they have just brung in charges that were lighter, you might be able to get a bigger conviction for easier for like a well, I mean, like I said, they have a high success rate with these things. Maybe Diddy will be an outlier. I don't know. I don't know. It's all about the jury because we could talk about this and that. It's all about those 12 jurors and their mind frame and their state of mind. It's not AI convicting Diddy. It's not court of public opinion convicting Diddy. It's not artificial intelligence. It's not computers that's going to say guilty or not. That you put in the it's 12 jurors with their own independent minds, and we'll see what they are saying and what they are thinking once it comes time to do that verdict. Just the facts. I think the government has proven a drug charge with the possession with the intent to distribution, and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances like cocaine, oxycodone, ketamine. You think that well, it wasn't trafficking with that stuff. I think it was more like personal use and having it at the parties. Now, if you're saying distribute to people at the parties, not necessarily selling it to people at the parties, but having people use it, you know, now, it would be bad if people started testifying, which they probably would soon, about them being drugged. We haven't heard no testimony in court yet about those allegations about people were drugged and knocked out while some awful things was happening to them at them freak-off parties that they didn't know about. You know what I'm saying? Those would be awful, awful allegations, awful testimony to hear that stuff went down. You know what I'm saying? Now that stuff might lead the jury to be like, you know what? I hate hearing this. We gotta get this guy some time. We gotta give this guy some time just because of that. Even if you don't want to give him time because of the domestic violence, we gotta give him time for drugging, allegedly these people. You know what I'm saying? So it's all in the juror's hands. That's why you're not gonna hear me come up here and say Diddy is a good guy. I would hang out with him because I know he's not. You know what I'm saying? But legally, we took him from a legal standpoint. Legally, there is a lot of circumstantial evidence, but not like physical evidence. You know what I'm saying? So that's how James Smith, all of the witness statements offering first-person knowledge is not circumstantial. So you're saying it's not circumstantial? All right, so let's go to what circumstantial evidence is. Let me see. Let me pull up. Let me see if we can find where circumstantial. I didn't say anything about selling, possession, and the intent to distribute narcotics is a federal crime. So, all right. So you're saying possession and intent to distribute. So distribute. Normally, when we hear distribute, we think about selling it, distribute it to meaning selling it, right? Now you're saying distribute really means handing it out, giving it away. You know what I'm saying? And a couple of people did testify that they actually bought drugs for him. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they mean. And they found that stuff inside of his thing. But like I said, it's a mess. It's a mess. It is a mess. Let me see. Let me see. Give me a second. Let's see if we can find out what exactly we see exactly what circumstantial evidence is. Give me a second. Okay, so let me upload what circumstantial evidence according to one of the definitions I found using Google. Good old Google. Good old Google, guys. You know what I'm saying? And there's that upload. Diddy going to Harlem shake his way out of this, says T. Williams. You're saying it's not circumstantial evidence. These witness, we're going to get to that definition in a minute. Just the facts. I didn't say anything about, all right, so I read that. How does this make sense, Raze? Someone breaks into your house waiting on you with guns, then burns your car, and you agree to have a sit down with him. He's mad. Diddy took Cassie from him. Hey, It's Holly weird. Holly weird. You know what I'm saying? They call it Holly weird for a reason, T Williams. Or yeah. Uh it's Holly weird. I can believe all that stuff happened. I'm not saying that I can believe all that happened, bro. I believe it did happen, you know. But like they sat down and they kind of squashed it. That's the thing. I'm not putting Diddy in jail for that after like 14 years just because the feds want to put him in jail. That's where I am no way saying that I'm not playing a defense attorney at all. I think he did do that to that man car. I've been saying that. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's not a damn mongoose. You know what I'm saying? So I would never say that. And I do think he's a bad guy. I mean, he's an awful guy. You know, it's just that if you're on a jury, do you want to put him in jail for being a bad guy, awful guy, or for the what was happened years ago, and kind of like these things have been ironed out with the alleged victims. Raze, if Diddy get off, do you think that he will become a passport bro and leave the country to freak off in DR, Colombia, Brazil, or Thailand? No, if he get off, he's staying right here. His ego seems like he'll stay right here. And yeah, he's not. Yeah, I mean, but you know what? Who knows? He might, because the thing is, it seems like he's an S addict. He seems like an S addict. If he feels that he can get away with doing that stuff abroad instead of here, he might go ahead and choose to do that, Drew. Since it seems like to me he has something wrong with him as far as being an S addict. You know, it's weird. It's a weirdo vibes with him. D Hick Raze, everything you just mentioned went on at the Playboy Mansion, and Hugh Hefner never got put on charges. Holly Weird is definitely true. Yeah, D Hick, you know, Holly Weird is definitely true. You know, it they they accepted that stuff, and I don't know 100% what happened inside the Playboy Mansion. I don't know, you know, because I haven't, you know, that was a while ago. All the evidence and stuff wasn't being brought to fruition like they are doing with Diddy. I guess they didn't ever charge Hugh Hefner with this type of stuff. Underage, I don't know. You know, I'm not even going to pretend that I know 100% about that Hugh Hefner Playboy Mansion stuff, because I can assume, I go, yeah, there had to be some of this type of stuff going on there. There had to be, right? But there was no charges brought up on Hugh Hefner, and he is dead right now. But still has nothing to do with this case, because the feds, you know, he's looking at 15 years of life. And for some reason, the feds want this guy. They didn't want Hefner. They want Diddy. So just the facts. I agree. First person witness statements based on direct experience are not circumstantial. They're considered direct evidence because they stem from personal observation or involvement. Okay, got you. So let's see what circumstantial evidence means. According to Google, this is from Legal Information Institute, law.cornell. Circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence that does not, on its face, prove a fact, an issue, but gives rise to a logical inference, all right, that the facts exist. However y'all want to, however y'all want to scramble and do the definition of what I just read. I mean, all this legal mumbo jumbo is not down my alley. What does this mean, guys? What the hell does this mean? Circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence that does not on its face prove a fact, an issue, but gives rise to a logical inference that the fact exists. You know, guys, this is more for the lead attorney to I don't know. This is God. Whatever that means, guys. Hit the like button, guys. Whatever that means. Hit that like button, guys. So you're saying it's not circumstantial, it's first person witness based on direct experience, or not circumstantial, which is the definition that's on the screen. They're considered direct evidence. because they stem from personal observation or involvement. Okay. Do y'all agree with just the facts and comparing it to this circumstantial evidence on a screen? You know, it's a vendetta. They want him because he walked in the Shine case. There, I believe he was guilty. Victims who were shot said it was him, and he walked. T. Williams. So you're saying they're trying to do a makeup? They're trying to make makeup. Okay, that's been known to happen. That happened to OJ. That happened to OJ. You know. They got him on going inside that hotel trying to get his memorabilia back with the guns, and they got him on kidnapping, and you know that was a makeup. That was makeup for him getting off on the 2 homicides. T. Williams, yeah, T. Williams, yeah. All right. Let's see what just the fact. All right, it means this: circumstantial evidence doesn't directly prove something happened, but it proves to it in a way that lets you logically connect the dots. Okay. So that's just the facts. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. They are still in the courtroom right now. Let me see who's testifying. I don't know. Are they still? I think probably it's been let out. Let me just see before I break out of here. Let's see if this trial is still going on for the day. They normally let out around 3:30, 4 o'clock each day. Let's see if there was any other surprise witnesses that I did not see. Hit the like button, though, guys. Hit the like button. Let me see. Oh, God, what the hell? You was going inside the courtroom and see if they finished for the day, guys. Hit the like button, though. Hit the like button. We'll just scan through it real quick, see if there's anything else interesting that came out of the courtroom today before I break out of here. Lights up, guys. All right. Well, this is from the prosecutor. This is from 37 minutes ago. Prosecutor says we are still ahead of schedule. We may even cut some witnesses. So they're saying they may even cut some witnesses. I think we'll rest in less than 6 weeks. So the prosecutors are saying they plan on resting their case in less than 6 weeks. We'd like to, in the second week of June. All right, we'd like to in the second week of June. So they're planning on resting their case in the second week of June. Right now, we're about to be in the first week of June, guys. So prosecutors are planning on resting their case in the second week of June. So roughly about 2 weeks, 2.5 more weeks of this, guys. Roughly, we got about 2.5 more weeks of this until the prosecutors say that they are planning on resting their case, guys. That's some news. We might bleed over into the third week. Judge says, I'll look at the request to charge. Okay, so that's the timeline of when this might be finished. You know, let me see what else. TF, thank you for that, TF. Thank you, Respect the Raze, for expanding the content on this channel. Well, thank you. I appreciate the TF with the $5 donation to Raise Raze Cerveza / Travel Fund. I appreciate that. This is fun talking about this stuff, and you guys are engaged, and I have fun talking about this stuff. We're going to continue with this until there is a verdict. Who knows? Maybe on the day of the verdict, I might go out to the courthouse and be live from the Manhattan, and bring you guys live footage of the verdict being read. I probably won't get there in time to get inside the courtroom knowing me, but I'll be outside. They said it's only like 2.5 more weeks from now when the prosecutor's going to arrest TF, which is, but in the meantime, you're going to see what other witnesses start popping up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay. Well, that was the main thing, So T minus 2.5 more weeks, TF, and you guys, until this is pretty much finished, and we'll see what the jury says. Can you imagine if he found, not guilty, or like I said, last minute he just pleads out, and hardly gets any time? That would be huge news. What y'all think would be bigger, if he's found guilty and gets 15 years to life, or if he's found like not guilty altogether, which that hardly ever happens in these type of cases for the feds, or if he pleads out like a few days before. You know what I'm saying? Now, like I said, they're going to cut. The prosecutor said they're going to more than likely cut some of the witnesses they had planned and not even bring them in to testify. Man, what would be the bigger story? Him just pleading out and not getting any time? That way the feds can save face and be like, all right, well, we got him to plead out. At least to plead, he pled. Would he take 5 years instead of the 15 they were offering him before? It's interesting. That's some interesting stuff. As it gets closer to the end, that's going to be highly entertaining and interesting to see where it goes. Now, I know we say entertaining. This guy's freedom is on the line. You know what I mean? We having fun with a guy's freedom, right? Talk about entertainment, but it is something to be looking out for. It is entertaining to see what's going to happen, the results of this. So how did this all end? This is Puff Daddy. This is P. Diddy, Puff Daddy. You know what I mean? The guy that went against Death Row Records, the guy that had the beef with Suge Knight, Tupac, Biggie Smalls, Lil Kim. That's that guy, Puff Daddy. This is huge. The prosecution must be confident to be considering cutting witnesses, said James Smith. Interesting. I believe that's what that means. The prosecution must be confident to be considering cutting witnesses. Interesting. That's interesting, James Smith. Are they confident that they won't need? They got we have enough evidence, with these people talking, that we are going to have the jury come with a unanimous decision to find him guilty on racketeering as trafficking. Just the facts. Are you aware that James Cruz, Bad Boy Records, and Combs Enterprise executives is going to be testifying? I think that might be one of the nails in the coffin. Okay, who knows what they are going to say? More than likely, they're going to say stuff against Diddy because, like I said, these are unindicted co-conspirators that are testifying, likely given some type of immunity, and they're trying to they would want to avoid prison time themselves, and no telling what the feds have said to them. I did not know that they were going to be testifying. So that's going to be huge once they testify. Because once they testify, I guess they're going to be trying to point the finger at Combs and say, well, we had no knowledge of it. We just heard rumors. They probably be talking. Well, it's going to be interesting. Well, we just wait to see what they say. You know what I'm saying? Because, they be trying to, point the finger at others and not themselves. You know what I'm saying? They were like, "Oh, all of that was on Diddy, not us." We had no recollection. We maybe talked to Diddy about certain things before. I don't know. Who knows what they're gonna say? I don't want to just be up here just speculating what they're gonna say. Guilty would be. So you saying T Williams? You saying guilty would be the biggest story? Guilty would be the bigger story than him being acquitted. I don't. Well, if he's found not guilty, I think that'd be the biggest story. Him being not guilty, I think, because then you could interview him. He'll be going on his media tour, doing interviews and stuff. I think that'll have more long lasting effect in social media and in the news. Him being not guilty, because he'll be free to discuss it, and people will be speculating what happened. Why did he pay off the jurors? That's going to come up. Oh, he paid off the jury and this and that. I think a guilty verdict would be big too. It would be big, but it won't have the staying power of not guilty, I believe. But that's my opinion on it. The prosecutors shouldn't accept a plea at this point. This Nash dude buried him today. So the Nash dude, that testified, buried him today, says NMAC. So you're saying the prosecutors shouldn't accept the plea deal? They should just continue going forward and don't accept the plea deal. They offered him 15 years before the trial started, NMAC. He turned it down, according to reports. And I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but according to some people, shout out to you, NMAC. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Anybody new to the channel? The feds ain't letting Diddy walk. With that money, they spent money, and they're definitely getting it back and more. Like I said, Diddy is paying the millions of dollars, whatever he's paying to these lawyers. He got 10 lawyers representing him. You know what I'm saying? It must be unsettling for Diddy when prosecutors begin cutting witnesses, not out of weakness, but because they believe that existing evidence has already established guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah, today was a very bad day for Diddy and his team, says Just the Facts. He will get a pardon, says T. Williams. So he's saying Trump was going to come in and pardon him eventually. Now, that's a whole other can of worms, That's oh, man. Oh, man. But like I said, hit that like button, guys. We'll see what happens tomorrow, who is being called to be a witness tomorrow. If there's anything interesting that arrives, or anyone interested that arrives in that courtroom and be called to testify, I'll come back live and talk about it with you guys. Thank you, guys. You guys are all juror number 13, and thank you guys in the chat. Appreciate you guys for pulling up on Raze. Until later on, might come back later on today. Salute to you guys, and hit that like button on the way out. I'm Raze, and I am out.